Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your digital media questions 7 days a week. Let's go ahead and jump into those questions. Bill, what do we have?
Our first one apparently comes from Jeff Francis this morning. Think about installing a Mac Mini. There was a different one up there, and it just flipped. And I thought, wait a second, what happened? Did it go into answered?
Okay, I don't know. Hold on. Hold on. I'll pull it back. Hold on. I don't know what happened.
Stand by. I'll wait for Alex.
Yeah. Try now. You see it now.
Okay.
Go to the
Douglas Carmichael clip, right? Yeah, that's the one I first saw. DiGiCo just released the Quantum 112, which is their first Quantum series console that's small enough to be transported as checked luggage. What does the panel think? And he's got a link there to that.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Boy, this is really cute, adorable little mixer with tons and tons and tons of power. DiGiCo is I love the system of DiGiCo consoles. I have to change my brain when I move from Yamahas and other consoles. They work a little differently, but they're so customizable.
How do they work?
Even though you only
what makes them different?
You really need to set them up. So you go to a Yamaha CL or that kind of thing, it's really set up to be, you see all your faders there and you go through banks. Whereas the DiGiCo, you kind of work in DCAs and groups and you do spills. So with only a few faders on the surface, if you're mixing a band, the first fader is going to be a fader called drums, and that's your drum subgroup or your drum DCA. And they have a fader spill, which when you need to modify something about the drums, you hit that fader spill button, and then the drum channels all expand on this 12-channel surface. So that now you have your kick in, your kick out, and all those. Wow. And so you can adjust drums, and then you hit that button, undo, the drums fold back into that one drum channel. So you can really customize this to work very fast for a particular situation. I don't find them volunteer friendly. So this is not the kind of thing you would put into a smaller house of worship. If it's a house of worship with a dedicated production team, the first Quantum console actually went in about a mile from my house here, interestingly enough, and they've got a production team, and so they've got a dedicated sound engineer. Walking up to that and building your own show is difficult. Understanding someone else's show is difficult, but building a show for yourself to travel with, you can get a lot of processing power and a lot of capability out of this very small footprint because it's DiGiCo. Fits in a Pelican case under 50 pounds. It fits into a rack.
Is it less than 19 inches wide? It looks like it may be less than 19 inches wide.
But they've designed it to go, they have a custom Pelican case to go with it, and it's under 50 pounds. So it's designed to go as checked luggage. It's got a Dante interface on the back plus 16 dedicated mic pre's in it. So you still need, stage boxes, but very cute. Yeah. Don't know how much yet.
Right, exactly. Mickey.
Yeah, I just want to add as well the way DiGiCo consoles work. Actually, there's no one way for that DiGiCo consoles work because it's so customizable. But the way most use it with the spills that Jeff was mentioning earlier really works with most of my mixing experience has been with TV and film, and that's exactly the way I work. Like I have my groups or DCAs, and then I need to make an adjustment to one of the footsteps channels. I hit spill on my footsteps DCA, and my 12, 18, 24, 32 footsteps channels spill out onto the board because I can't have all my over 1,000 tracks up on the board at any given point in time. So we go with the DCAs, and then we mostly work with the DCAs because we would have pre-dub them, pre-mix them before going on to a full mixing theater stage. And then after that pre-dub, when we need to make minute adjustments, we do the spills. Going back to the Quantum 112, I think DiGiCo was way overdue with putting out the new really small form factor mixer. Their previous SD11, I think, has been around for, when did they release that, Jeff? Like 2011, 2012, somewhere there. Like it's been a long time since they've released the board in this form factor. So it's been way overdue. And they've released it like very nicely in the Quantum family as opposed to the slightly lower end SD family. So it includes a lot more processing capabilities right in the box there. They have their I forget what they call it, Spice Rack. That's what they call their FX Rack engine. They have their multiple Spice Rack slots that you can use to put in a lot of really capable processing in there. So I like that it's within the Quantum family. I don't use DiGiCo consoles much in my line of work. You see it a lot more in the music side of things, and its customizability is really like if you're specifically mixing monitors, if you're mixing like say 20, 30, 40 in-ear monitor mixes, Quantum is where you want to go because you can really customize how your faders and your encoders work. I'm excited for people who this board fits the bill.
It is a little over 17 inches wide, so with the rails and everything else, it would slide into a rack. So if you're building, we've done that a little bit with some of the some other boards that it works pretty well. So anyway, it's interesting form factor for a touring band. Go ahead, Jeff.
So just to clarify, DCA is a digital controlled amplifier. It's kind of the digital version of a VCA, voltage controlled amplifier. And I learned this concept, and it kind of reminded me what Mickey was talking about, where he's talking about, spilling out his footsteps. And same thing with drums is human perception. We have trouble remembering or accepting more than like 7 to 9 things and keeping it in our brain at a moment. So we actually listen to things as auditory objects. And there's oftentimes a lot of little pieces of sound. In Mickey's example of sound design for film, there'd be a lot of little pieces of sound that go into make something that you might hear as, a dinosaur. And when you're listening to a band, there's a lot of pieces and a lot of individual microphones and channels and things that go into making what you hear as drums or kick and snare. There's a lot of elements to that. So the idea of an auditory object that works in this because you begin to think of background vocals as an auditory object, and then you can spill out and work on those individual pieces and then put them visually back together on the console, and you're thinking in larger groups. And in music, it's, drums versus guitars versus vocals. In film, it's footsteps, it's, doorknobs, it's clothing rustles, it's, squeals and animals.
Yeah, incredible. Really good. Next question.
Jeff Francis is right back with from Columbia, South Carolina, thinking about installing a Mac Mini M4 in a streaming rack. Light duties, it's ATEM Software companion, web browser, things like that. Is the minimum spec a 16 gigabyte, 256 gigabyte enough?
Go ahead, Jason.
Yes, it is. That said, I don't know. I can't really bring myself to buy 256 gigs of storage because if my iPhone has more than a Mac Mini, it just doesn't feel right. That said, it'll absolutely do it.
Good, Mickey.
Yeah, I would dig through, your IT department's like trash heap and find like a 2012 Mac Mini, and that would get the job done. If you have anything like of age. I use a whole bunch of 2018 and 2015 MacBook Pros for little management stuff like this. And Intel, no problem, gets the job done fine. Yeah, I wouldn't sweat it with getting a brand new machine specifically just for these tasks.
I have an M4 that we were testing because we might have to buy a lot of them. And it's the beastiest for the price. It is the most powerful computer I've ever seen at the form factor and price that it is. And so I have the base unit. The only thing that we've run into as far as a ceiling is really complicated resolve projects, like that suddenly hammer it. And it's not that it can't do it. It's just that it's slow, and it's competing with an M3 Ultra that I have, and it's that I have on my desk. So it is incredibly powerful machine. The only thing I would think about is whether you need any more fast connectivity. So the only thing is the Pro version would have more to it, but I think that the base version that you can get as an educator, I think for $499 or something like that, is incredible buy. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Anybody got an idea of what an OS and app, sort of install is? I'm worried about that 256.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on.
You can always add external, but
I think that I want to say that they take up. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's like 20 or 30 gigs is going to go right to the everything else that's there.
Roundabout, yeah, that's about right.
So you're probably at a little under 200 gigs. That would be the one place that you might want to increase it. The vagaries of this is, if you want to do any kind of immersive stuff for some reason, you're not going to need that right now. But if you want to do that, you need 32 gigs of RAM. So that would be the other that's the other little caveat there. But I would say that it is you can get old stuff. I have a lot of old Mac Minis as well. I don't really believe in anything under the M series now, just because I have a laptop that's under M series, and it just that a lot of software is starting to drop that off the back. So if you're going to buy something new that is an M series, I think that this is a pretty good deal, especially with the educator discount. Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, specifically with the tasks you stated in the question, like I wouldn't have any qualms with 256 gigs of storage and 16 gigabytes of unified memory. And if you need to actually store media files, I would not place anything important on internal drives of any computer. I just get throw it on the NAS or get external storage for that.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective again, if you need to do edits or whatever, we have done hours and hours and hours of editing. My son has done hours and hours of editing in Resolve on the Mac Mini base unit. No extra RAM, no extra hard drive space, external drives, as Mickey pointed out, and it's been fine. So it has a lot of headroom as well. So you can give it light duties because Mickey's correct that with just ATEM software and a couple other things, you probably could use almost any computer made in the last decade. But this will definitely do that. But it also means that if you need to do an edit or do something else, it can do that too. Next question.
Danny Grizzle from Longview, Texas is up next. The production industry is oriented to project work, but band managers need digital asset management to catalog video assets over time. What are the best strategies and systems?
I think it's brand managers. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, band managers probably do as well nowadays for promotion. But Frame.io is great for this kind of thing, especially the new 4.0, which isn't super new. But they really prioritize, I think, all stages, the project and the digital assets. The big thing that they push in 4.0 particularly is a lot of new metadata fields, a lot they've added, a lot that and totally customizable, so you can add your own metadata fields that fit your needs, so you can do reviews and some workflow, and so of course from an organizational standpoint you can add and customize fields to your heart's content. Specifically, I'm showing a page now about file management. Also, I think, as Alex has pointed out many times, the speed is just remarkable in terms of your ability to upload and download from this. The one thing I'm not a big fan of is they used to support integration with DaVinci Resolve, where you could directly work within DaVinci Resolve, but Adobe bought them, and poof, that no longer exists. It's integrated quite well with the Adobe tools. But yeah, I've worked with clients that use similar competing tools, and it's painful compared to using Frame.io.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm curious, Danny, because I think if you want to take on managing a MAM for a brand, for a company, I think that's a full-time position. There's no being a service provider just for managing media assets. You are on call 24/7. They need the graphic now. They need a logo that they used in 1965. You need to be able to respond with that file immediately. You're going to be a librarian for them, essentially. What I would recommend is to try to provide them with possible solutions that they can implement internally within their company. Take a look at what ecosystems they work within a lot. Like, say, if they live a lot in the Avid world, Nexus, along with their they call their MAM Interplay, Avid, Nexus, and Interplay, that works amazingly well. With companies with hundreds of petabytes of assets use something like that. So try to figure out what may work with the current solutions that they already have in play. If they're Final Cut House, there might be other better solutions for that. But unless you're looking for a full-time job, I wouldn't take this on as a contractor or an outside vendor or service provider.
Yeah, we generated Pixel Core generated it for a couple of years, about on average 7 terabytes a week of content, and we had a full-time person that managed all of that, and we could find pretty much anything that we had made in the last decade in about 15 minutes. Now ours was very, very low. I was cheap, didn't know if I ever needed it again. One of the things that we did was I had in our agreement, I said, we only guarantee that we'll keep your content for 30 days. So we would hand stuff off to people, and we would only guarantee that we would keep it for 30 days. Of course, we kept it forever. And unless they might have a contract that says you have to delete it, and then we delete it. So that was like, okay, we're all done. But we still had someone manage it. We had a disk tracking software that would just index it. So we built a huge database of that, and we had spinning drives. We had a wall of 2,000 spinning drives that were constantly worked through, and he could find it. Again, he could find anything in 15 minutes. It was for us, it was faster and more stable than DLT, which I had previously, and I had enough trouble with it that I didn't want to use it anymore. And so, the thing that we had to look at is there's online, nearline, offline. So online, of course, was the fastest raids that we could possibly use, and usually that was limited to. Nowadays it might be more, but back then it was limited to about 24 terabytes. Like we would have raids that would go up to about 24 terabytes, and that stuff was as fast as we could use. And I still kind of live inside of that world right now. And then the nearline, we would have stuff that we might need soon. It's still active. We might need to pull it through and everything else. And that was sitting on a slower RAID, but usually some kind of RAID 5 that was managing those assets. And then we had the offline stuff, and that's what all these little spinning drives were. The offline stuff that we don't expect to go back to anytime soon. Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, just to put things into context, I typically speak within like an enterprise solution kind of world. It's important to note that with digital assets management, it's not just like dealing with where the files are, where they're stored, and I can grab them. You're also standardizing if you're dealing with video files, standardizing to specific codecs, resolutions, frame rates. That's part of the management of the assets. Same with image files, graphics files. You are not only just figuring out where they're saved and how you can get to them, but you're actually managing how they are, their formats, as well as the variety of types of deliverables you may need to provide. Say, for example, marketing department just needs a quick H.264. You should have all of that at the ready. Broadcast department requires an uncompressed 12-bit of it. That should be ready to go. You're preparing all these assets so that the moment they are required, you can get them out quickly. Or if there is a specific requirement for codecs, frame rates, and resolutions, you can automate through a render server the encoding or re-encoding of these assets so that they fit whatever the deliverable spec you require. So it's just not saving the files and making sure you know where to find them. It's a full-time job. You're managing it, and you're dealing with SANs, you're dealing with NASs, you're dealing with oftentimes hundreds of petabytes worth of assets there.
And the two that we've seen the most when it comes to that level of management is Iconic and Binder. Those are the two big MAMs that when we work with partners that do it. I don't know enough about it, or I don't use those because it's not a business I want to be in. As Mickey pointed out, we handed 90% of the format stuff that Mickey talked about. We did with wetware, which is that we had, there's a paper that you would get when we started the show, and everything has to fit into that format, and everything was delivered exactly in the format that we wanted it in. And so we didn't have to cross those things out. But I would, so you can look at those, but be really careful. This is this is a place where you can get into a lot of trouble. Like just know that if you start taking on people's assets and promise that you're going to manage them over time, it is what we would term as fissionable material. And this is, and so you just want to be very, very, people get very upset if you lose the only copy of something that they spent millions of dollars on. So really think about whether you want to be part of it's just whether you want to touch it. Next question.
Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York's up next. I have to monitor 3 different audio feeds. I'd like to use the same pair of headphones so I don't have to constantly switch them out. What recommendations does a panel have for this kind of setup?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Zach, the first thing everybody here will want to know is, where are your sources coming from? Are these analog sources? Are these digital sources? Is this already on a Dante network? If they're 3 separate audio feeds coming out of analog things, I'm going to go back to every audio person's old favorite, Radio Design Labs. Here's a little 4-input switcher with a headphone amp in it. So you could plug 4 devices into that, easily switch, and have your headphones come out of there.
Good, Mickey.
Yeah, exactly. That would definitely be my first question. What are your sources? What you're looking for is what's called a monitor controller. And that takes all your different sources in a studio environment and controls their levels. Sometimes there's some processing there for time alignment, EQ, and routes the appropriate sources to the appropriate destination. Some monitor controllers are very simple, have 2 or 3 stereo ins and a single stereo out. Some of them have multiple 16-channel inputs for Atmos, and have multiple routes going outside. I'm talking about like 192 outputs along those lines, and that allows you to control your monitoring in a full immersive or surround studio situation. So those there's a whole range of monitor controllers that are available for you there, with again a range of various input types, analog. ADAT is very common. Dante is very common. The RedNet X2P is a very popular choice for monitor controller. This is full Dante input with Dante outputs along with analog outputs as well. It's just one of the hundreds and hundreds of options out there.
Good, Bill.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell a story on myself. Just do pay attention to the specs. I was looking for a desktop simple switch, A/B, 2 sets of, I have my IFBs and my regular headphones. I wanted to have a little switch on my desk, right? No problem. So I found one, and I thought, that looks great. I was online, I ordered it, it came in, and then I had a Spinal Tap moment because this is what showed up. This little teeny tiny, unbelievably small thing that is completely worthless unless I'm traveling. It's great for traveling, so I'll keep it. But just note the specs, and if you're trying to do something in a particular form factor, read carefully. You can get fooled like I was. Yeah,
and sometimes all you need is I need a headphone mixer that is, I'm not routing a whole bunch of stuff to it. It's just that I've got, what happens what happens is we have a variety of devices that I need to be able to look and hear from. So if we're streaming, I might have an Android device, an iPhone, a computer, and I want to hear what's coming out of that natively, like what would someone get out of it. And so a lot of times I have like a little mixer in my backpack that does that. And this is the one that I have currently. This is the, I don't know what they call it, Mauki Mini audio mixer. This goes up to 8 channels. I think the one that's in my backpack is 4. And you can it's just 1/8 inch, quarter-inch jacks in, and you just plug them into there, and you can just control the volume of each one of those. There's nothing special about it, but it means that when I'm monitoring a bunch of different devices, I'm just taking their headphone out and listening to it. It's not nearly what Mickey's talking about, but it oftentimes is what I need when I'm just kind of mixing some stuff together. I just need, and I don't want to figure out how I'm going to tie all these computers together, all these things, because it's just monitoring different things, and that's worked pretty well for me. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I just want to add as well that some higher end audio interfaces have monitor controllers built into them so that you can have different sources route through your monitoring solution that is controlled by the interface. Like say, the digital audio Denmark audio interfaces, which are also used by Avid as the Avid Matrix and Matrix 2, which I'm using at the moment. It has a highly capable monitor controller built in, and Digital Audio Denmark, they typically shorten that to DAD. And then their monitor controller, they call it MOM, which stands for like monitor mixer or something like that, MOM. So you have your DAD and you have your MOM to pair with your DAD so that you can control your DAD.
Next question.
Did he have brother and sister too? Pedro G. Gonzalez III, Washington, D.C. Has anyone used Wave's plugin called Facebook Hunter?
Feedback Hunter.
Oh, Feedback Hunter. Why am I missing those? Feedback Hunter. It claims to ring out your PA in 30 seconds or less, and it's got a link there.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I definitely haven't used it because I do not see a need for any automated feedback suppression technology because it doesn't allow for your subjective decision on how much you want to affect your loudspeaker system just to kill feedback. If you can't ring out a PA within like a minute, then what are you doing in control of a board or a loudspeaker system?
Yeah, the problem really is if you lean on something that's automatic. I mean, if you don't know how to do this, then this will look like it's worth using. But really, the way to do this is to learn how to do it because if anything goes wrong, if it doesn't hit it, it can get it there in 30 seconds or less, but now you'd have nowhere to go if it doesn't work, or if it stops working, or if you need to adjust it. There's nowhere for you to, it's very, very hard for you to make those adjustments. It's having automatic things do things that are basic for you is a great way to have something happen in the middle of your show that you can't fix. Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
And yeah, what typically happens as well is that it will start to cut out way too much from your actual mix that you want to put out in your PA system, start to negatively affect what your audience is hearing, or if you're applying this to monitors, what your artists are hearing on stage. You need to be able to not only use the typical technique of bringing down in your graphic EQ the frequency bands that start to ring first, but you also should tell with your ears when you're taking out too much so that you don't negatively affect your frequency response across the board.
Next question.
Jeff Francis in Columbia, South Carolina, and here on the panel, I'm looking for a Dante headphone amp. Any options under US $500 that I'm missing?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, there are several options. I first want to show like what I most often see in the wild, but it certainly does not hit the $500 mark that you're looking for. But the RedNet AM2, no brainer, just works. Solid solution from Focus Rite, along with the RedNet X2P, which has a bunch more capabilities. It has A to D conversion built in, so it's perfect if someone needs to hear something, but not only hear something, but also send analog signals out into the Dante network. But these don't hit that price range. I would take a look at, first off, the Virgil from Glen Sound. It's a simple headphone amp, PoE powered, from Gotham Sound. At this point in time, I was surprised to see it at under $500 US because I remember these being at $600 just over a year ago. So Virgil from Glen Sound. Another one is the Model 5202 from Studio Technologies at Market Tech at the moment, $495, just under $500 price range. Also from Studio Technologies, there is the Model 362A, which allows you to have two channels coming in, and each channel has its own level pod.
Is that typically a comms box?
It's typically used. This one is specifically used for IEM usually or IFB for talent, but you could definitely just use it, as a headphone, a Dante headphone amp. Feed it your 2 channels of Dante. You can have those 2 channels come in on a single pot in stereo, or 2 totally isolated mono feeds, so that people can balance between sources if you want. This one comes in at currently $445 US in Marketech, but I definitely take a look at the Virgil from Glen Sound. I've used them, very happy with them.
Go, Jason.
This is totally cheating, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you have a console that already has Dante, or aren't opposed to just adding another output to your Dante rig, this is the Midas DP48. Works easily with my X32, and has its own separate aux in. The other benefit there is that it gives you 2 independent mixes. Again, assuming that you're going to be interfacing with AES-50.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I just want to add as well that you can get a typical analog headphone amplifier for, depending on how many channels you require, anywhere from $30 to $200 US for like an 8-channel box, and pair it with an Avio, and you'd be certainly under your $500 US mark, and you'd have a system that's a lot more flexible. You can take that Avio output dongle and use it for other setups, and also take that analog headphone amplifier and use it for other studio setups as well.
While everyone was talking, I was trying to cobble together that solution. I couldn't quite find the exact ones that I would recommend, but that's where I went first, because I've got a box full of Avios, lots and lots of AES Avios and Bluetooth Avios and ins and outs and all kinds of other versions of the Avios, and so it is definitely a good all-purpose solution. If you are watching the show on YouTube and you're not in Makana, you're missing half the show. There is chats. People are asking questions, voting on questions. If you'd like to be part of that, you can go to officehours.global/join. Next question.
Next one comes to us from Brian Stark in Nottingham. Good morning, panel. What are your opinions on the Audient ORIA, ORIA Mini, as a relatively inexpensive tool to give better monitoring for home studio mixing? Thanks.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic little box for the price. It's essentially the good old SonarWorks speaker processing or monitor processing technology, but built into a hardware device. In the past, with the SonarWorks solutions, you would have to run a plugin in your DAW and route your mix through that to be able to get to be able to listen to your loudspeaker or your monitoring system with frequency response fixes for your environment, as well as time alignment and also phase alignment. This puts it in a hardware box. That means you don't have to have your DAW running to be able to listen to your system calibrated. You don't have to run all your signals through your computer to be able to hear all your other signals from outside the computer in a calibrated way. You can get your your B chain in a studio environment. Your monitoring chain is referred to as the B chain. You can have your B chain run totally independent on your computer, so you can take all your sources going into what we talked about earlier, all your sources going into your monitor controller. Your monitor controller then goes through this ORIA correction system, and your ORIA system feeds the rest of your monitoring system. That would essentially be your power amplifiers that drive your speakers in most situations. So it's really great to be able to have this for the semi-entry level market at, I think it's $300 US. If we take a look at Sweetwater, it's $299.99. In the past, like for the solution that like I'm running here in the studio, we're each of our rooms have matrix boxes, and the speaker processing card for the matrix boxes, I think at the moment are at about $2,000 US. When we got ours, it was closer to $3,000 US just for that speaker processing card, the SPQ card for the Avid boxes. Granted, yes, these speaker processing cards can handle up to 128 speaker outputs, as opposed to just 2 channels of output on the Oriya. But for someone who has like a tiny, like a small home studio that is only monitoring in stereo, $300. I would recommend this.
Go, Jeff.
Definitely very cool. And just a reminder that this does not fix all acoustic problems in a room. So it's really hard for it to deal with things in time, like reflections bouncing around your room. Trying to fix the source to prevent reflections that occur because of walls is very, very difficult, if not impossible. So you do have to still have a treated room to prevent all kinds of reflections, but this will help with inaccuracies in the particular speakers you have and their interaction with the room.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I have to support Jeff with that. Like, nothing beats actually measuring the distance of your speakers and the angles of your speakers, getting your placements right, and also room treatment. Work with physics first before trying to work around it. You will, for example, never get around lulls in your room. You know, if you pump more of a frequency that's hitting a null point, you'll just get more zeros. You cannot fix that with any processing. So yeah, get your monitor placements down correct first, and before you apply any processing in your B chain.
Next question.
Kyle Nesta in Philadelphia is in with this one. Hybrid event question. Has anyone used the secondary Dante output of a drop ceiling microphone array, such as the Sennheiser TeamConnect, as an audience mic source? Any considerations I should keep in mind?
I haven't done it with the Sennheiser. We did work. Pac-12 used to have a headquarters in San Francisco, and they had an array of mics that was in their press area, and it was. I don't know what the system was that they were using. It was very expensive, but it was kind of magical. You know, I think they had 50 mics in there, and it was, you could just stand up and start talking, and it was a natural feel to it. I was looking for pictures of it. I couldn't quite. I know I took a picture, but I can't remember when or how it was. But and it was probably the best solution I've seen to do it, but they built the room to do that. Like, it's not something that you could have just installed. The entire room was built so that those mics would work anywhere in the room. So I think it's a pretty heavy lift to build something like that, but you could. Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I would imagine if you were to use these microphones in a space with loudspeakers in it, it would just capture most of what you would capture is just PA system. When we deal with crowd mics, we typically employ shotgun microphones. Usually it's a whole slew of 416s or MKH60s or Sennheiser MKH60s or Sennheiser MKH70s, because we really want to isolate capturing just what we need, the crowd, instead of capturing crowd and PA. With a microphone array like this, you'll mostly capture PA.
Next question.
Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand's up next. I know a few people collect old MIDI modules like the classic Roland MT-32. My old Ensoniq VFX-SD synth still works. I had an ESQ1 and the Fizmo. What role do you think old hardware, particularly synths and or keys, plays in the modern software synth world?
I think oftentimes you have an artist that just really only knows that one thing, and you have them when we've seen them in studios, they really want to use the thing that they are comfortable with, and they have a request for those kinds of things. But outside of that, I don't think there's a lot of use for them. Next question.
Harshid Trivedi here on the panel from Daytona Beach, Florida. What type of stand would you put the MV7 Plus on when using it while traveling?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I'm assuming, Harshid, you're talking about using it yourself for just simple speech applications, such as jumping on a meeting, a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or web conferencing platform. If that's the case, what I do is I carry what's called a Dinkum FlexiMount. It can hold large microphones, such as this softy from Rycote. You can hold up a whole bunch of microphones in all sorts of ways, and it's a simple, just a clamp system on it. They have a heavier duty model called the Action Pod Pro, which can carry people, use it to hold up cameras, for example. But I carry, a longer Dinkum system, the Dinkum mount, as well as a shorter one, and I use which one makes sense for the microphone, and also I use another one to hold up things like cameras and lights that have like quarter 20 mount or a microphone mount on it.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Actually, a question for Mickey or anyone with that or clamp. Would you recommend a different mount? A shock mount or something for the mic itself to help, with all the inevitable desk bangs and everything else.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, if there is a shock mount, then the shock mount, if it's effective, should take care of those bangs.
I mean, it has an internal one.
As someone who's owned a bunch of these MV7 and MV7 Pluses, shock mounting the MV series is not something that I would consider travel ready. Like you just can't. It's just a really bulky thing that kind of works. And so I haven't found that solution, a shock mount for these, to be particularly useful, and we mail them out and so on and so forth. Now I admit, when I travel, I use a headset. I use a DPA for that because I just don't want to. It's from a space perspective and a packing perspective. I'd rather have a headset on and have it be a little thinner than try to pack. And it's not so much the packing of the mic. It's exactly the problem, Harshid, that you're dealing with, which is, where do I put it? Like, I don't know where I'm going to be, and it's one less thing that I have to figure out how to mount. So I have a tendency to just use a headset. Next question.
Next one comes to us from Jeff Francis here on the panel from Columbia, South Carolina. Follow up to the Mac Mini M4 question. What minimum spec, if it's also going to be recording 16 channels of audio via DVS, would you recommend?
Good, Mickey.
Yeah, just tracking audio is so lightweight. Like, I remember like 2006 or around there using like a PowerBook, like back in the IBM chip days, recording 128 channels through FireWire interface. And those old machines like, G4 or G3s, I don't recall, handle it no problem. So again, like such low power requirements for tracking audio, 16 channels. We can literally do that on our phones now.
Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, Mickey, you're bringing me back. I had a Mackie that I think it was a 1220V or 1220i that I adored for FireWire. You're going to run into more problems with Ethernet than anything else, and it just so happens that I think the OWC Thunderbolt 5 network dock would do you really well.
A little ad there, brought to you by OWC. I would say, that you probably could do 128 channels without it getting over 15% usage. So I definitely think you have an enormous at 16%. You may not see if you open up Logic or Pro Tools or whatever you're going to record on, you'll see it take whatever it's going to take. It's probably going to be like 12% or 15% of the computer. When you start recording, it will probably move maybe 1%. Like it's such a small lift compared to just running the app. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, these were my thoughts, and it's great to hear it confirmed. You won't get 128 with DVS. Caps out at 64.
Right. There you go.
But it seems like that.
But
base
anything
model
DVS could. Now, I have to admit, like when I need to record stuff on the road, I use a Joco because I just want it to go away. So like for me, I have a 1U Joco and it's Dante, and you just send all 64 channels to it and hit record, and I end up with a USB stick. But I don't use the computer for that, but you definitely could. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, and with DVS, my go-to recording, larger channel count recording rig now is what we call this Digiface Dante, paired with an application called Wild Tracks. Check it out; it's affordable and really good. I'll put a link to it in the chat. Wild Tracks. But my backup recording rig is DVS with Pro Tools running on, I believe, a 2015 MacBook Pro. It's nothing.
Yeah. Next question.
Alec Peterson in Cape Town, South Africa. Hi, why does Unity Intercom at times allow me to sign in and other times refuses me? Then I have to restart my phone. Any theories as to why it wants to work and then not respond?
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I have a little bit of context here. I know Alec works with Hasmukh Ajar, Dr. Hasmukh, with his media production company. I know at this current point in time, their Unity Intercom server is currently just running internally in their network with no port forwarding set up yet. So it's currently inaccessible from the outside of the network. So I'm wondering, Alec, yes, first, are you connected to that very same internal network that the server is running on? Secondly, is your mobile device I guess you're using your he mentioned phone. Is your phone possibly running some sort of VPN service that might be, even though you're connected directly to the internal network, might be teleporting your internet traffic to some other server external from the office's network? And this could include, if you're using an Apple device, Apple's very helpful private relay service, which is a VPN service run by Apple that doesn't really give you much indication that it's running. Very helpful. But yeah, if you're not connected directly to that very same internal network, or if you're using some sort of VPN service that might be transporting your traffic outside, then you would not be able to get to that server.
If you're looking for an easy way to ask questions here, of course, you can go to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global. Throw your question in there, and it goes into Makana, it's then voted on and commented on and everything else, and it may make it to the show. So askofficehours.global. Next question.
Andy Kokendorfer in Viera, Florida says, where do you find short mic arm extensions? My SM7B is just about 4 inches short on its mic arm. Thanks.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, most of the big things like MarkerTech have little arm extensions and things like that you can find. One solution you might consider, I use these as little quick mic disconnects. These come from Ultimate, and they're really solid. It's about 4 inches long. The only downside of these is that they're quite heavy. So if you have a mic that is heavy and you've got an arm arrangement that is kind of already at the tipping point, it might be too much. But barrel connectors that are XLR and other kind of just extensions are pretty easy to find on those sources like MarkerTech.
Go ahead, Jeff.
One word, Amazon. There's a bunch of them on there.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, take a look at companies like OnStage, Triad Orbit, Quick Lock, and see if they have longer arms than the ones that you currently have. I'd hate to add an extension to an arm if I can just have a single purpose-built arm that's long enough to suit my needs. I'd go that route.
You go, Jeff.
Two things. First of all, remember physics again. So as you extend, the clamp needs to be a quality clamp on the mic arm itself, or else all of a sudden it's not going to stay where you want it. Bill hit the nail on the head of what I was going to mention, which is kind of kill two birds with one stone. These quick connectors, which you can find on Amazon anywhere, are really great. They do offer the extension. And of course, now I will say, really try and think ahead, because this is addictive and you need the same quick connector on every device for it to make sense. So on every arm you have, on every mic, this one's a little less expensive, but it's not as long as you need. This is an example of one from Gator Frameworks, great company, high quality, a little bit more expensive. This is longer. This particular one is 6.5. So, but again, you'll want many of these to have the appropriate male or female end on all your devices. And I will say, I also have an iPhone mount on one of these, so that if for whatever reason I want to just stick an iPhone on a mic arm and have it in front of me, it's ready to do that, and I could just swap it out on the mic arm because I have a quick connector on everything. I can put one on.
Yeah, I have the Gator Frameworks Quick Connects. I will say that my experience with them is that I'm kind of careful about where I put them. So I do use them in a handful of places, but I don't use them everywhere because, especially on an arm, adding any kind of length to that changes the leverage against all the joints. And I find that it becomes my arm, even my Ultima, it's just a lot of adjustments that I have to make, and it doesn't work nearly as well. So, for instance, on this mic rig, I don't have that Gator because I don't want to add that leverage to it. So think about that as well. Next question.
Ronnie Hossoy in Tromsø, Norway. Neumann added new subwoofers to the KH series speakers. Is it time to upgrade? And he's got a link to it.
Mickey?
Time to upgrade. I think that would depend on what your current low LFE or subwoofer setup is like. If it doesn't get the job done, if it's lacking in SPL, if you're having to push the amplifier to be able to get it calibrated up to your appropriate monitoring levels for the room, then you may want to look at a different solution. But and also going back to what we were discussing earlier with the sound, the SonarWorks calibration, I would prioritize getting your loudspeaker, your monitoring system calibrated well. Low end is the hardest to tame in a room, so I would prioritize spending on some sort of way to treat your room and calibrate your room, as opposed to spending more on just bigger, louder subwoofers.
Next question.
Next one comes from Mike Edwards in Brooklyn, New York. Morning, everyone. Has the panel's sentiment changed on the Focus Rite 2i2 with the new anniversary edition release? And he's got a link to it.
I think it's a very individual decision as whether the panel has changed its mind, because I think a lot of people have their same opinion, except now it's an anniversary version. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, I think the blue makes it sound better. I think the red one is faster, has faster transient response, but the blue one has probably a smoother frequency response curve to it.
Exactly. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
If it had a purple one, would it be right between the two? Is that what I should look for?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
precisely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I mean, I want the 2i4 in the blue because sometimes I need 4 outputs to do a click track to a performer's headphones and a playback track. You know, these are utility boxes. They do serve their place. But you know, if you're going to make it blue, make the whole line in blue.
It just reminds me that there's no piece of hardware in existence that has taken more time from me unwarranted than this box. So it's not my box. It works fine for me. So when I have it, it works fine. When I use it, it is trying to support these remotely is a disaster. And so I just that's all I'll say. Next question.
Next question comes from Paul Wallace in Austin, Texas. The Indiana Fever in their post-game presser used some unusual mics. What are they, and how do these rate for press conference mics tonight? They win or go home versus Phoenix, and he's got a link to the mics in question.
So I will say, I mean, we've given a lot of pressers a hard time for what they're doing here. And I will say that it definitely, someone heard it, maybe not us, but we actually have good mics at a presser, which is very unusual. Usually it is junk, and it seems like somehow they have decided to, at least for the playoffs, decided to up their game a little bit. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, these to me seem like they're just standard gooseneck microphones. They look I'm not entirely sure what they are exactly, but they look a lot like the gooseneck microphones from AKG, probably their DAM series of gooseneck microphones. They're certainly, I wouldn't call them unusual microphones. They're pretty standard for.
I think that what makes them unusual is that they're attached to a regular stand. So usually these goosenecks attached to a base, and that base oftentimes gives you extra controls like mute and other things like that. Here, what they did is if you look at it here, what they did is they took the base of that gooseneck and they pushed it into the mic receiver for a basic stand. So they've got these little stands here, and they just took the goosenecks and put them on there. And it's a nice mixture of, I think what they were trying to solve is a lot of times the goosenecks may not go quite as far out as you'd want them to, and so being able to put them near the front raise them up a little bit, move them in, but still give the flexibility to make those adjustments, I think is what they were trying to do there. And I think that it still sounds horribly thin. Like if you actually listen to it, I don't know what else was going on in that room. You never know what else is happening. So it may have been a lot of filtering, but for someone to be that close to the mic, I was surprised at how thin the sound was. Yeah, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, and yeah, typically you would find gooseneck microphones as connected to a base such as this one. You'd have a mute switch as Alex mentioned earlier. But seeing goosenecks on stands like that, in my experience, it's not uncommon to see them on stands, clipped onto stands like that way.
Next question.
Next one comes to us from Douglas Carmichael. The Dinkum FlexiMount looks very interesting for attaching a mic to a desk. That was the thing shown earlier in the show. Could it be a flexible substitute for a boom arm like a Rode PSA1?
Go ahead, Mickey.
In a situation where it's like a long-term use or a permanent install, I'd still go with just comparing between the two, I'd still go with a boom arm that is clamped out of the way, and you can like easily push it out of your workspace once you're done with it, as opposed to a Dinkum mount wherein for my use case it's like totally something that's temporary. Like I put it on, I clamp it on, I use it, I take it immediately out after I've used it for a call or whatever.
Next question.
Next question comes to us from Jeff Cohen in Miami Beach, Florida. And Jeff says, thoughts on Sora 2 and the examples such as iJustine's?
So I didn't see this until this morning. I think it might have come out this morning or late last night. So Sora 2 came out yesterday, and there was a presentation, and we were like, oh, it's pretty good. Very typical live stream, boring. You just wait for the clips of the examples of going through it. They kind of, the whole keynote format is dead. Like I just have to say that like when I watched it, they now have it in a little living room and they're doing it live, and it's so slow. Like you're just like, oh, okay, let's get to the point. So I watched it. There's some pretty impressive things, and I thought, wow, Sora's moving pretty quickly. This video that Justine Ezerick did last night or whatever should terrify everyone and excite everyone all at the same time. Like it is the craziest AI that I have seen so far. Like and what Sora 2 allows you to do is build what's called a cameo. And so a cameo is you say a couple words and you move your head around a little bit, and it builds a version of you that it can insert, and you can share your cameos with other people, either specific people or certified creators or everyone. And then they can say, you can use somebody else's. So she was using like Sam Altman's talking to her about something, and create it all. Now, what they're doing is they're basically building the next. Sora 2 is not just an AI generator; it is it is OpenAI's version of TikTok. So they're basically built it around a format of TikTok, except that everything is AI. So it isn't like, is it AI or isn't it AI? It's all AI. It's all generated by the system. So there's no video involved ever. And so I think they wanted to clarify that. I mean, we can talk about whether AI is, good or bad or whatever, but you need to see what Justine did with it. And Justine has been this person for 20 years, which is she'll take your product and do something with it that actually makes sense, as opposed to what you thought it would do. So she put together this video of her in different places and everything else. And I do have to say that I think I was I think I might have spoke too quickly when I said that Hollywood doesn't have to worry about anything for a while. This may be the thing that terrifies. I mean, for me, I looked at it and said, well, medium and wide shots. You may need the close-ups for the emotional moments, but I think that there's a lot that could happen here. And it's not so much, is this going to replace film? It is are people going to want to watch film if they're watching things that are just outrageously, outrageous and very, very good? As someone who's worked on a lot of film or some films, the physics in AI is dramatically better than about half of the Marvel universe. So the physics, when you watch an effect done by AI, it is doing it, the effects and the people landing and doing what they need to do and everything else looks better than what an animator did before that. And so I think that is the thing that as an animator, as someone who's worked on these and spent hours or days working on the physics of a ship or something else, what I'm seeing in AI, I just know that would take a very, very long time. And there's so many times when I watch the Avengers where I go, oh, they were too fast. They were landed too hard. They did this thing. They moved around in a way that wouldn't work. And I just don't see that with AI. It has it figures it out. So yeah, go ahead, Jeff, real quick.
And I'll just mention real quick, also along the same lines, it's not Sora, but if you haven't seen the news or heard about Tilly Norwood, Google Tilly Norwood. It's an AI actress who is meant to be a name brand actress who will have an agent who will get roles. And as many has pointed out, she already looks more realistic than many of the current Hollywood stars with their faceless and everything else. She looks more authentic. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
And you have to be, I don't know, when you're looking at things, if you want to know the truth, you can either be for nor against it. So it's really easy to say, there's been a lot of rah-rah, and I've been like, okay, we'll see. And then there's been like, oh, it's never going to happen or whatever. It's not going to do it. And I'm like, okay, but this is the first time that I think probably sit a little bit more in the middle, was like, oh boy, like that's a crazy effect. So whether you think that AI is a good idea or a bad idea, you should watch the video. You should watch what iJustine built, just so you know what Sora 2 is capable of, because I think that's probably the best example of what Sora can do of anything I've seen so far. So anyway, there you go. On that happy note, thank you to all of our producers for asking all the great questions. It was a great conversation as always, and of course that conversation is also driven by the incredible panel that we had here today. So I want to thank everybody. We can't do this without you. An audio heavy panel on Wednesdays. And you can see audio heavy questions on Wednesdays as well. People are starting to understand that we got some heavy hitters here. So I just really want to thank everyone for being here on a Wednesday to share their knowledge. And I want to thank the incredible team on the back end that makes this possible. This is not your standard Zoom meeting. This is something that takes a small village to turn on every single day, and we have not missed a day since March 25th, 2020. So thank you so much for your contribution. Today, if we had done this in person, we would have traveled 43,000 miles. That's 68,000 kilometers, and that is 337 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. Yeah, I watched it. That's part why I was late this morning. I watched it and my brain just was like kind of short circuited. I was just like, oh boy, that's a crazy video.
One of those mushroom cloud moments for your life.
Yeah, that was, for me, it was a mushroom cloud moment. I was just like, holy smokes, and that you realize that at the rate we're going, in 2 years it'll be more. So
I mean, perfect, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's perfect.
If everything is real, nothing is real.
I think that there's going to be. I think there's going to be a really interesting drive towards social networks that actively push back on.
Yeah, and a return to practical.
That you have to be verified. Like we don't serve. I think the line should be.
We don't serve your kind.
We don't serve their kind here. I think that's going to be really popular.